Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host, Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a good Friday and that you're looking after yourselves and one another. Bill Schuster and I are back with another episode of our top five albums of the 1990s. How you doing, Bill?
I'm doing well. Haven't slept since I got off work this morning. So I am perky as can be, as you can imagine.
Yeah, you're on your second cup of coffee.
Yes,
There
indeed.
you go. Oh, he's got the major mug in there, the huge one. That's good. That's good. That's good. No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Uh, guys, before we start, if my voice sounds a bit off, I'm dealing with a major head cold. I'm trying to keep it from becoming a chest cold. So I sound all congested. I feel bad, but you know what? We're going to push through. We're going to get these episodes done. So please forgive me if I do sound a bit off. So with these episodes, like we did with the top five albums of the 70s and 80s, we are going to give you our top five albums of the 90s. This episode, we are concentrating on 1991. Now, 1991 was a weird year for me. My musical tastes went all over the map, right? Basically, no prog was in my playlist at any time through 1991. How was it for you, Bill, in terms of albums to listen to that year?
Um, I would have to say that a lot of the albums I listened to then did not make my list. My younger self and my older self are arguing. So I went with the things that have stayed with me more rather than the things that got maybe more play at that time. But yeah, there was
Hmm.
definitely a little off the beaten path. And yeah, I would, there's a couple artists that maybe borderline hints of prog, but not in particular, really. So, yeah, the 90s were kind of an eclectic mess, which was kind of the fun.
I got you. I got you. And but you know what? That's a good thing about these doing these lists is you think back to what you listened to, and you either are still listening to the same albums today, or you realize that they've gone by the wayside over the years, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, as customary with these episodes, I will pass the virtual mic over to Mr. Bill Schuster because again, my mama did bring me up, right? Miss you, mama. And he's going to give us his first number choice for 1991. It's going to be one of those episodes, guys, so bear with us. So, what's your first choice?
All right. And my mom's probably watching the shows. Hi, mom. One of our guaranteed viewers.
There you go. One of them.
Wow. All right. 1991. What is 1991 most known for in popular music? Well, Seattle. I mean,
Yep.
this is the year of the grunge explosion. You know, all the big albums that came out in 91. I'm not going to list them all, but this is not one of those albums. This is one that Armando might kick me off the show for placing so low, actually. But and I, yeah, can't find my CD, but it is the last album by this band when their wonderful frontman was still alive. It's Innuendo by Queen. It's my
What?
number five.
Ooh.
See, look at the look on his face, folks. Look how he because I put it this low.
Holy shit.
So I'm in the process of pissing off the host and the grunge fans. That's it. I'm going all out. All right. But Queen Innuendo is an outstanding album. This does not take anything away from it.
Go on.
But all right, well, we talk about a few of the songs here. The got to look over at my list here to make sure I'm not forgetting. The title track is, of course, awesome. That's about as close as they got to that aforementioned progressive rock we talked about. It's a pretty cool, weird song for 1991, kind of a mini epic. Headlong was that was the big track that got played on the radio at the time. And at that time when it was played, I had no idea, of course, that Freddie was even sick, that anything was wrong. I just thought, here's a new Queen single from their latest album. And yeah, absolutely in the dark. And I enjoyed it. It was just a good, strong Queen rock song, and it still is. It's the basic Queen rocker. Can't go wrong with it. It's not an all-time favorite, but it's damn good. It's Queen. I mean, come on. Um, don't try so hard. I kind of slept on for a while until uh, another more modern favorite artist of mine, Lana Lane, covered it on an album in the 2000s, and it made me go back and, oh yeah, this is really a fine song here. These are the days of our lives. That one in particular, I think when I saw the video for that, I was out eating and I saw what Freddie looked like in that video, and oh my god, that was harsh. That was when you knew, yeah, that something's not right at all. And so I still didn't know at that time, but you could tell by looking at him if you didn't know. It's a wonderful song, but that video was kind of a gut punch. Um, the show must go on, obviously. Yeah, Freddie didn't write it, but he might as well have. I mean, that's kind of the perfect ending for him. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a Hollywood scriptwriter came in and said, "Here you go, guy. This is your closing note." But one of my favorites on here is actually one that I think a lot of fans love to hate. It's about Freddie's cat, Delilah. Meow, meow. That song is adorable. It's fun. It's just Freddie saying, "Fuck it. I love my cat. Delilah's my favorite cat. I'm going to write a song about her. Deal with it." And I think that's great. So yeah, it's that reminder that Queen were not this all serious band. The fact that they could have that on the same album with the show goes on, knowing what they all knew was happening with Freddie at the time. I mean, the man knew he was dying, and he's still going to make this fun song about his cat. That that's just brilliant. That's he was such a great artist, and just he went all in all the way to the end. So it's only number five, but I can't really explain my reasons why it's only number five, but it is an outstanding album. So Queen Innuendo. I bet it's going to be higher on Armando's list if I had to wager.
You had a wager? I'm a peaceful man, Bill. I'm a peaceful man, so I'm not going to say anything. Ooh, number
So
five.
you're saying if it's the top of the list, you're going to be like, and this is my number one album.
There you go. There you go. No, I'm not going to go there. I'm a peaceful man. But talk about a gut punch. Um, hmm. Okay. Oh, got to recover from that one. My number five is eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Um, Metallica was self-titled, otherwise known as the Black Album. Came out in it was like November of '91, featuring Enter Sandman, Sad But True, wherever wherever I may roam. One of my favorite tracks on the album. This was where the band, the first album they worked on with Bob Rock as producer. People are probably going to wonder, why is this number five? Because you know what, guys, I really only listen to the hits. And when you have a brother who had the cassette and all they listened to were the hits, um, I mean, it is what it is. It's a good album, a different sound, a beefier sound on the drums. They weren't going for the sort of speed metal thrash kind of thing. They were going for more hooks and melody and choruses, and they succeeded. This album is a mega seller. People said that they've sold out. You know, I've always said, since when is being successful selling out? You know, this is what they wanted to do. The reason why they chose Bob Rock as a producer was that they felt that he did the best work when he produced The Cult, when he also produced Motley Crue. They originally wanted him to mix the album, but then he said to them upon meeting Hetfield and Ulrich that he wanted to produce the album. And at first they were like, "Oh, how dare you say that? How We're Metallica. We don't have anyone producing us but ourselves. And he's like, take the pickle out of your ass and breathe a little bit and listen to what I'm telling you. You need help in the production side of it. Let me see what we can do here. If you're open to it, we'll try it. They fought for a year. This album, the recording started in October of 1990 at One on One Studios in LA. And it was a hard fought battle, but they came up with what they came up with. And it was a mega seller. Okay. Other songs of note, The Unforgiven. Um, you know, that in itself, the second single was a major hit. So, um, you know, um, it's a good album. It's a good album. The reason why it's on my list at number five, you know what? There are other albums that came along that overtook it for me. I'm sorry. So that's my number five. So all you haters, come at me right now. Um, Back over to Bill.
They can come after me even more then because that's one of those albums I was talking about earlier that I listened to a lot back then. Spoiler alert, it's not on my list for 1991.
Well, there you
I'm
go.
If I listen to Metallica these days, it's the Cliff Burton albums, those first three, and that's really all I feel I need for the most part. Some of the Black Album hits are sprinkled in on my 90s playlist, and they're fine when they come up amongst everything else, like my own little radio station. But I mean, it's a good album. They did exactly what they set out to do, and they did it well. And Bob Rock helped them with that a lot. So I can't take anything away from them. So it's just I prefer their earlier stuff, but I don't feel like I need any more of it. I think that they did enough of that initially, so that them trying to recapture some of that earlier sound in later years doesn't really interest me because I don't need it anymore. So
Hmm.
yeah, but yeah, it is a good album. It's just not going to be on my list. Um,
Number four.
Something completely different from Metallica. All right, this band in the 80s, they were considered a bit of a Genesis clone to a degree. They had four albums with their original lead singer. Then they put out an album called Season's End with his replacement. This is the follow up to Season's End. This is Holidays in Eden by Marillion. And that replacement, of course, is Steve Hogarth. This is another one of those albums that is not well loved amongst hardcore Marillion fans. It's usually pretty low on people's list. They tend to love the one that came before Seasons In and the one that came after Brave, but they kind of crap all over this one. Think it's too mellow, too poppy. I think the pop hooks are part of why it works for me so well because they are a really good pop band when they try to do that. It's just that not all their fans don't really want that from them. But I don't really expect them to be one thing or another. So for me, it's easy to just look at these songs and take them as they are rather than, well, this needs to be more prog or, I don't care. They do some great prog stuff. They do some great pop stuff. They even have some cool hard rock stuff in their catalog, believe it or not. But this is just a really well done album. I mean, songs like No One Can, that is a wonderful, perfect pop song. How anybody could hate on that, I don't know. That should have been a radio hit, frankly. But it was not meant to be. There's a chance you might see more of these guys in the future from me. But yeah, for now, I'll just give a little love to Holidays in Eden because somebody needs to.
Good one. Good choice.
Maybe not good enough to be above Queen, but
We won't go there. We won't go there. Still
we'll
love
just
you,
wait.
Bill, but won't go there. Um, my number four is REM with Out of Time. Um, this album, their first for Warner Brothers, they had signed a major deal with Warner Brothers Records. This was a point where artists like Madonna and Prince and Michael Jackson were signing these mega album deals, like $100 million for like 10 albums or something. This is their debut release for Warner's. Um, Losing My Religion was the big track off the album. There were other singles from the album. Uh, this is where I really got into them, and of course, there you go. You've got Bill shaking his groove thing there. Um, Again, Losing My Religion was the major hit. You also had radio song featuring KRS-One as a, on, backup rap vocals, whatever. Other songs of note on the album are Endgame, the instrumental, Me and Honey, the last track on the album featuring Kate Pearson from the B-52s. Also, Shiny Happy People was another single from the album. The other track, what's it called? Texaranka, I think it's called.
Texarkana.
Texarkana. Okay, sorry, I
Yeah.
don't have the CD with me right now, but I mean, this album was more straightforward in terms of melody and hook and punch, and it got noticed, and it was a major seller. It's unfortunate that the Warner Brothers record deal with REM that it's looked at as Warner's taking a bath pretty much on the deal because their records did not in terms of sales. We're talking sales here. We're not talking the quality of the music, but we're talking strictly sales here. It's unfortunate that their deal with Warner's didn't translate to what Warner's would consider to be uh pay dirt in terms of return on their investment. A lot of other bands who signed these mega deals did not get the record companies did not get a return on their investment. And Warner Brothers was the main one that basically took a bath. But Out of Time from REM is my number four.
Nice. Yeah, a lot of times I think that's the record companies get what they deserve because they're giving these mega deals to people who have already had their successful arc. Basically, if you look at most artists,
Yeah.
they have that upward swing and then eventually it's
They
pretty well done.
crash.
I mean,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's like they're not taking risks. They're not trying any newer, fresher artists, and
Yeah.
I have no sympathy for the record companies. That's what I'm trying to say, I guess.
No, no, no. I see what you're saying. I see what
um,
you're saying.
yeah, that is yeah, that's a good one. It's not one of my favorite REM albums, but I do think as overplayed as it is, Losing My Religion is an absolutely outstanding single. I like the Lacuna Coil cover of it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
But
this thing was huge.
yeah, that being said, though, I do just a quick note and a note on that, a little caveat. I do like the album tracks better, like Endgame as a little instrumental on it, right? And Me and Honey, the last track on the album featuring Kate Pearson. I just think it's those two tracks alone are fantastic. So yeah, it's, but yeah. Anyways, moving on. You're number three.
Number three. All right. Well, it is the year of grunge from Seattle. We all know the big bands who put out albums this year: Nirvana, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, Temple of the Dog. Ah, screw those guys. It's whole pretty on the inside. That's right, people. I'm picking Courtney over Kurt. Put that in your
A
pipe and smoke it.
lot of
We
people
haven't lost
would.
all the viewers yet. We're doing it now.
There you go. There you go.
I'll take Courtney 10 times out of 10 over Kurt. Not a popular position, I know, but something about her. She is an authentic rocker. At least she was back in those days before she kind of went Hollywood and then did all kinds of weirdness along the way. But back here, she was raw and real, and her and most important other member, of course, Eric Erlandson on guitar. This album was, I mean, grunge is the perfect description for it. This is her before a lot of pop hooks and stuff like that. It's dirty. It's nasty. It's I mean, check out the back cover here. With I mean, yeah, that's kind of what that's who it sounds like is singing some of these songs. And Courtney, you can see before all the success and all the drugs and everything else hit her, she actually looked so young here, but she didn't sound young on the album. She
Hmm.
she sounded well. I mean, for those that don't know, at one point she was briefly the lead singer for Faith No More in the '80s. So
I didn't know
take
that.
that for what you will.
Holy
Um,
shit. I didn't know
yeah,
that.
I
Okay.
don't necessarily think there are particular standout songs on here. I think the whole album kind of blends together well. It's this whole album listening experience. Got to be just in the mood for that dark, dirty, raw rock.
Yeah.
Um, it doesn't sound overproduced or too professional or anything like that. These are not studio hacks or anything here. This is just a raw, real band at this time. And I think that's what I like so much about it.
Hmm.
So, all right, now that I've officially alienated the Seattle and grunge fan contingent, I'll go
I
ahead and
think you
turn it back over to you for your
I think
number.
you're doing just fine. I think the fact that I picked Metallica as my number five, that's going to piss off quite a few people. Hmm. So, moving on, guys. Coming in at number three for me, it's a bit of a no, it's not a toss up. We have Genesis with We Can't Dance. Um, what to say about this album? It was a big seller. It alienated a lot of people. People are saying that this is not prog in the traditional supper's ready 23-minute plus length uh arena kind of thing. But you know what? To me, this was the band's last big push. Released in November of 91. This was just before Freddie Mercury died. It was released 2 weeks before Freddie Mercury passed away, featuring the lead off single, No Son of Mine, which at the time was a real kick in the gut to me to watch the video and listen to the lyrics. But to me, it has a combination of both the top 40 hit single format and the progressive format because you have two tracks, Driving the Last Spike and Fading Lights, which is my favorite track on the album, the last track on the album, that clock in at 10 minutes plus. I saw them live on this tour, June 6, 1992 at the Sky Dome. We had third row floor seats. Beat that. For Genesis. So it's a good album. I mean, with songs like, again, No Son of Mine, Jesus, He Knows Me, which I love the video for that. You need to check out Jesus, He Knows Me. Driving the Last Spike. I can do without, I Can't Dance, the fourth track on the album. Um, Other songs I can do without, Tell Me Why. Living Forever is okay. Those songs to me are a little bit formulaic. Since I've Lost You is like the 11th track on the album out of the 12 tracks, which is okay. Very piano driven, forlorn, oh my God, I'll never see you again. I deserve to see your face again. I miss you, that kind of thing. Caveat, that was my brother's favorite track at the time. Although he was going out with two girls at the time, let's just say that. And one of them found out about the other. Let's just say that. We won't go there. Anyways, relationships aside, I don't think that the album, in terms of certain tracks, has stood the test of time. I do think it's a departure from Invisible Touch. Um, but I don't think overall that it's the reason why it's number three instead of number two is because I don't think it's as strong as the previous albums, like in the 80s and with Duke and even and then there were three. It is a good album. I like the album tracks versus the singles better, as I do with REM. So that's my number three. You can dance.
It's not my number three, but I did have it handy.
There you go.
Um, Yeah, I'm a big Genesis fan, but I can't tell you the last time that I've listened to this album start to finish. So I keep meaning to do that, which is why it's out here.
Yeah,
So at hand, because I'm due for a reassessment. It's yeah, it's long been not one of my favorites. I don't hate it or anything by any stretch, but I agree I could do without the more or less title track. Yeah, it's kind of a bit much for me, but it's
yeah,
okay. But yeah, I agree. The other, as far as the hits go, No Son of Mine is quite good, and Jesus, He Knows Me. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I think it just goes on a bit too long. We're too deep in the CD era here.
It,
12
it
tracks and some of them
yeah,
long
it
tracks.
clocks in at 71 minutes plus.
Yeah, that's back in at the time of the dawn of the CD era. It seemed like a good idea, but the more we get back into this like renewed vinyl era and people making shorter albums again, the more I'm inclined to prefer that. So for
Yeah,
whatever that's worth.
yeah, yeah.
All right, my number two, yeah, it's one I used to have on a cassette. I have not replaced it with a CD, so I don't have a copy here. But it is one of the hardest rocking albums that came out this year with screaming death vocals,
Uh,
raging, roaring guitars. Okay, I'm lying. It's Reba McEntire for My Broken Heart.
I have that too, actually. It's a good
Uh,
album.
yeah, this is after most of her live band and crew was killed in an accident on tour, and she deliberately set out to make an album of sad songs, basically dealing with grief. And wow, yeah, did
Yeah,
she succeed? I mean, I'm getting choked up just thinking about it, and I haven't even thought of specific songs yet. This is one of those albums that I know what it was designed to do. It was designed to
yeah.
make me feel strong emotions, strong negative emotions. And
Yeah,
even though I'm aware of what it's trying to do to me, it still works anyway because it's so well done.
yeah,
Uh, and some of the most effective songs weren't even singles. I mean, she had "The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia" cover the Vicki Lawrence hit from the '70s, which that one somewhat breaks the mold. It's still a bit of a sad song. I mean, her brother is mistakenly put to death by local law enforcement because she killed her brother's wife. But yeah, still though, that's nothing compared to say Bobby, which is Reba's one co-write on the song with famous songwriter Don Schlitz. He's probably most known for The Gambler that Kenny Rogers had a huge hit with, and
yeah,
he's also written songs with Mary Chapin Carpenter, of course.
yeah.
um, but Bobby is a song about
Breathe,
yeah,
breathe.
yeah, man, this album, it's rough. She succeeded. I mean, she's had all these there's this thing another song on here, The Greatest Man I Never Knew, that she'll have all these, big burly guys in cowboy boots and hats up in the front row sobbing.
Yeah, yeah.
Not something you expect to see at a country music concert necessarily.
No.
But yeah, my God, this is one of the most effective sad albums ever. And that's
Yeah,
why it's so high on my list, because it so successfully does what it set out to do. But yeah, back to Bobby though. Bobby was a song about a man who, yep, he helped his wife die because she was suffering.
yeah.
Yeah, and of course his son, yeah, thinks that he's a murderer and doesn't understand.
Doesn't understand the whole thing. Yeah,
Yeah, until much later. And yeah, my God, such a brutal song. But and yeah, The Greatest Man I Never Knew, yeah, about basically a distant father,
yeah. No, it's hard.
all
It's
dressed
hard.
up with nowhere to go, about a woman in a nursing home always waiting. Yeah. Yep. If you don't want to be sad, people don't ever listen to this album, like ever. I mean, but it's a cathartic experience. If you got some emotions you want to get in your feels, oh, buddy, yeah, Reba McEntire for My Broken Heart. It's the masterpiece of its kind. I've only ever owned one of her other albums. That was the one prior to this. Rumor has it, and that's really all I need from Reba. But yeah, this stands out. It's something special. So I'm not going to
Oh,
talk about any more songs because I can't even get through talking about them without choking up. So yeah,
yeah. No,
good
I
stuff.
understand. I have that CD. Um, Bobby really, really hit me hard when I heard it. I just, Jesus Christ, you know.
Yeah.
And when you were just talking about the one track All Dressed Up and No Place to Go, I'm gonna share something, guys, quick. When I was a kid, I used to have to spend the weekends, like we're talking like 3 years old, 2.5, 3 years old. I used to have to spend the weekends or like the weeks during the week in the hospital because I was recovering from surgeries and stuff. And I'd go home on the weekends. Well, I always hate when Sunday would come around because they'd have to bring me back to the hospital. And my mom would take me into the room, into the ward, and put me in the crib and tell me that she'd be back in a few minutes and never come back. That was hard for a 3 year old to have to deal with. So I was always be sitting there waiting. Is my mom coming back to get me? And let me tell you something, that never goes away, that feeling of being left behind. Forgive me, guys, but it's hard. So I get that feeling that what you're saying, though. It is difficult as I sniffle right now. Hold on.
Thank you for coming to our therapy session today, people.
Yes,
That's no extra charge.
yes. Dr. Phil is coming right up, guys. Um,
Oh, that's it. I'm out of here then.
there we go. There we go.
That frog can
No,
go
but I
somewhere.
get that feeling of being kind of left behind, always thinking like, where is everybody going? I'm being left behind. I'm not included. That feeling never goes away. So I get what you're saying. Those songs on For My Broken Heart are powerful, right? They're so emotional. Oof. Okay. Back to something more light and frothy. My number two is U2 with Achtung Baby. Um, Released again in 91 was a good year for releases. Released in November of 91 for Island Records. This was U2's sort of return to form in a big way. Their last studio album was 87's The Joshua Tree or the Joshua Tree, depending on how you pronounce it. They did release the Rattle and Hum half studio, half live album. Can't stand that album. Would never. I don't like it. Anyways, this saw U2 going in a completely different direction. Produced by Brian Eno and Daniel Lanois. Uh, when I listen to the production on this album, I'm reminded of David Bowie and Low and uh, Heroes and Lodger. More Heroes and Low than the latter, just due to the production with Brian Eno. Songs like Zoo Station that start off the album. Um, Love is Blindness, the last track on the album, just amazing. The singles Mysterious Ways, which has a bit of the Arabic influence. Other songs of note, Acrobat, The Fly, which was the lead off single, Until the End of the World. I mean, I just think this album was a necessity for the band to do. They needed to make the big change because they realized that in the public's eye, they become overbloated and self-important with regards to their public image. And they needed to take a step back and go in a different direction. And I think that if they didn't, take this step and go in this direction with the production that they did with Brian Eno, they would become a caricature of themselves. So I think that this album is strong. It's one I still listen to today. I mean, they toured for 2 years basically off the strength of this album. They did release Zooropa in '93 as a stopgap album. Uh, in my very humble opinion, and again, it is just my opinion, this album beats Zooropa by a bloody landslide. I'm sorry. It is what it is. There is a 10 CD, yes, a 10 CD box set available of this album. Included in the box set are this album remastered. There are club mixes, alternate versions. Um, there's also a release of Zooropa in there in the box set, and there's a DVD, or I believe a Blu-ray or a DVD of the Zoo TV tour live from Australia, which you can see. Amazing show. That's it's for that reason alone, it's my number two. U2, Achtung Baby.
I definitely agree with you overall on that they needed to do this and that they were overblown. I think they did what they needed to do and it was very successful for them. But for my personal taste, I think I kind of moved on here. It's one of those albums that I can look at and try to be objective and say, yes, they did a good job, but I don't really want to hear it. If I want U2, I guess I'm kind of in the boat with U2 like I am with Metallica. I would, I'm pretty happy with, for the most part, some of the stuff from the 80s and give me Under a Blood Red Sky and the Joshua Tree, and I'm probably good to go. So,
It's fine. It's
I
a
mean,
bit.
there are good songs along the way that I enjoy and stuff like that, but yeah.
It's opinion. That's fine.
Oh, yeah.
Fine. Just like when you picked Queen for number 5.
All right.
You're number 2.
All right. My number one
Number
is
1. Sorry,
number one.
it's one of those days, guys. Sorry.
It's the Innuendo Special Edition. Oh no, not really. it's it's actually who else? Who else could it be? Come on, it's Joe Jackson. It's Laughter and Lust. Why wouldn't it be? It's my favorite artist. Of course, it's probably going to be Joe Jackson, isn't it? I mean,
Of course.
uh, the only real complaint I would have about this album is the fact that he covered "Oh Well" by Fleetwood Mac. You know, just the short, rocky beginning of it, and that was the single that got played on the radio stations around here.
Yeah.
And why? Why? This man is known as a composer, a songwriter. Why in the hell would you pull out an old Fleetwood Mac song and make that the single for his new album while he still has a shred of commercial anything left in the tank? I think it put him in the tank career wise for, yeah, as far as commercial stuff goes. Um, it was just unnecessary. I mean, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's my least favorite song in the album. So, and I love the original, the full long Fleetwood Mac version. But really, though, this has got some great typical Joe Jackson songs on it. This is in his more traditional pop rock vein. He's not going too far out on any weird stylistic limbs here.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't appreciate me judging him, though. You can see by his expression there.
Yeah, I can see that.
Uh,
Too
yeah,
funny.
side one has a obvious song starts it out, and it's a neat little song talking about rock stars going around and flying around in their jets trying to save the environment and whatnot, and the hypocrisy thereof. I wonder if he was thinking about one Mr. Bono that you just mentioned. I don't know.
What was
Could
that?
be.
Sorry, I missed it.
So
One.
Bono,
Oh, Bono.
I
Yeah,
wonder if Bono might be one of his inspirations for that particular lyric.
exactly. Exactly.
Let's see. He had a song called "Hit Single" on here, which the general lyric was, They don't want to hear the whole damn thing, just the hit single. Yeah. So you can see Joe was very much cynical about the music business at this point, as if he
Hmm.
wasn't ready. But obviously, as I said, his commercial star was big time on the downhill slide at this point.
Yeah.
Uh, really, the second side. Well, there is no second side of the CD, but on my cassette at the time, there was a second side, and that's where a lot of the my favorite songs are, like "Trying to Cry," uh, which is kind of goes in just the opposite of what we were having issues with talking about Reba McEntire and everything here. This is a song about
Yeah.
someone who's told they shouldn't cry growing up and the kind of
Huh.
damage that did to them. Uh,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's the other me and when you're not around, they're back to back, just excellent Joe Jackson love songs of the kind that only he can do. They're both a bit upbeat. The old songs is about just that. It's about the old songs say she loves you, and yeah, he quotes a bunch of old hits from the '60s basically, and it's just this whole idea about believing all those simple pop love song sentiments and trying to base reality on that. It doesn't quite work.
Hmm.
Those old songs may be fun, but don't try to live by them. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, this really it's just a really
Huh.
good typical Joe Jackson pop rock album. If you like his other work in that vein, you'll likely enjoy this one just as much. It probably won't be number one of the year for most people who aren't Joe Jackson fans, but obviously I am, so
Huh.
here it is.
Sure enough. That's a good choice. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my number one was Bill's number five, Queen with Innuendo. Big surprise. Yeah, really. Um, Released February 5th, 1991. I do believe it was a Tuesday. Um, at the time, back in the 90s, new release days were Tuesdays and Fridays. Now it's only Fridays. Um, the first release for Hollywood Records in North America through Warner's. At this point, the band were in search of a new US deal for North America. Capitol wanted to get rid of the catalog. They were not happy with the promotion that Capitol was giving them. So when Jim Beach, the manager, approached Capitol about buying back the catalog, they literally threw it back in his face and said, "Here, take it. We don't want it anymore." Okay. They got a new deal through with Hollywood Records. The material for Innuendo was recorded through 1990, shortly after the release of The Miracle. I do believe it's their strongest album uh, up to that point. 12 tracks, Innuendo, the lead-off track, was the lead-off single in the UK. Headlong was the lead-off single in the US. Um, Innuendo has been seen as the, bastard child of Bohemian Rhapsody. Who gives a shit? It is basically a song that was done live off the floor in the studio as a live jam, all improv, with the exception of the minstrel guitar in the center section, courtesy of Steve Howe. Yes, that's Steve Howe from Yes. There is your prog element. I think it's one of the better tracks on the album. Other songs of note: I'm Going Slightly Mad, Headlong, Don't Try So Hard, I Can't Live With You, Ride the Wild Wind. That's side one. Ride the Wild Wind was a Roger Taylor track. Very heavy drums. Could have used more guitars, but you know what? It's still an ass kicking track. Side two starts off with All God's People, which is the only co write with Mike Moran and Queen. Mike Moran was the arranger and producer for the Freddie Mercury solo album Barcelona, the duet album he did with Montserrat Caballé. It started out as a track for that album and went over to the Innuendo album. Other songs are known on side two: These Are the Days of Our Lives, a poignant ballad written by Roger Taylor. And even at the age of 21, listening to those lyrics, I knew what he was talking about missing time with your family, missing time with your friends, looking back on the times that you've missed, and not worrying about what you've missed, but worrying about enjoying what you have in front of you right then and there. Other songs I've known on side too. The Hitman, Delilah is
Yeah.
okay. It's considered one of the weaker tracks on the album. Roger Taylor to this day has said that even he can't get behind Delilah. It was a song written by Freddie Mercury. He pushed for that song to be put on the album. Roger Taylor didn't want to do it. He hated it. It is what it is. One of my other favorite tracks on the album is Bijou, which is basically a keyboard and guitar, extravaganza. Basically, a guitar solo with some keyboard interludes put in, with the one, with Freddie Mercury singing to his cat, also named Bijou. Uh, and some people say with that track, oh, he used this distortion pedal, he used this amp to do, the multiple effects. Who gives a shit? It's a good track. He poured his heart and soul into that guitar solo. It is amazing. And the, final track on the album, The Show Must Go On. Okay. This album holds a special place for me because it was during this promo tour that Brian May was in Toronto, and I was able to actually meet him in person. Got to shake his hand when he came to HMV to do an interview for Much Music at the time, and he literally saw me and came over and shook my hand and thanked me for coming in to see him. That he realized it was difficult to get in because of the wheelchair. He appreciated me waiting for him to see him. That for me, that was it. It was like I was on cloud nine for the rest of the whole afternoon. So for me, that is my number one. It is not number five. It is not number four. It is not number three. It is not number two. It is my number one. So there
I
you
was about 99% certain that would be your number one.
there you go. And Nina, who's sleeping right now, just stretched out, and she's agreed with me. She's making noises that yes, it is his number one, and it deserves to be number one. So
Now,
there
when
you
you said
go.
you believed it was their best up to that point, did you mean at that point in their entire career, or
No, I believe that it was their best album, giving the last two albums the way they went in terms of The Miracle and
kind
A
of
Kind of
magic
Magic.
they could
This,
improve upon?
yeah, they were with The Miracle, they were almost there, combining the pop and the rock elements. This one is a lot less, Roger Taylor would say, poppy, more go for the throat in terms of songs like The Hitman, with a blistering intro with Brian May on guitar, and just a heavier all-round album, with the exception of Delilah and These Are the Days of Our Lives. But I do think it is one of the up to that point one of their best albums. It was a good way to end off their recording career with Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a pretty good cap on their career. All right, yeah.
Sorry, you didn't mean to overshadow. In terms of- so, your first honorable mention?
Let's see. I'll go for the one that I do not have a physical copy of. It's another cassette I've never replaced. Man, if I went and found all my old cassettes, it could have all kinds of crappy little things to show here. All right.
It's fine.
This is the first time I've put this band on here, and it will be the last time. Not that there's a lot that comes after this for them. They were a very controversial band. They were just about the biggest rock band in the world when this album came out.
Mhm.
It's one of two that came out the very same day. I'm going for Use Your Illusion 2 by Guns N' Roses. Um, I actually am one of those oddballs that thinks that these albums are better and more interesting than Appetite for Destruction. I think they're much more creative. They're all over the map. Appetite for Destruction was good for what it did. I mean,
Huh.
but these are them going for broke. They're going all out. Uh, it's a mess, and it's a lot of fun in that. You can't take everything serious on these albums. I mean, the album starts off with Civil War, which was a track that was already out before the album came out, well before, and that is one of the best tracks on either of the two Use Your Illusions. I think still.
Hmm.
Um, 14 years and yesterdays, I both like both those quite a bit. Knocking on Heaven's Door, one of their two big covers from these two albums, the Dylan cover here. Is it a bit overblown with Axl and his Axlisms? Sure, it's quite a bit different than Dylan's original, obviously, which was very subdued.
Yeah.
But it brought a Bob Dylan song to a whole new generation who probably had no clue and didn't give a shit about the original. So, hey, that's a good thing. Kind of the same with their Paul McCartney Live and Let Die cover on Use Your Illusion 1. Uh, Get in the Ring is a ridiculous song. And that's one of the reasons it's fun. It's Axl actually challenging by name a bunch of magazine publishers. And in particular, I was always amused by his slam on Bob Guccione Jr. of Spin Magazine. Of course, Bob's dad is Bob Guccione Sr., publisher of Penthouse Magazine. At least he was at that time. I'm not up on my Penthouse. They're here in 2024, but uh, and Axl had a line in there: "Close your ears, folks who are easily offended." He said, "What's wrong, Bob Guccione Jr.? Are you mad because your dad gets more pussy than you do?" Okay, Axl, that's he's going for the throat there. He's
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
hitting Bob Jr. where he lives.
Oh yeah.
But then the whole thing, he challenged all these magazine publishers and challenged them to literally get in the ring with him, as in the boxing ring.
Hmm.
How over the top ridiculous is that to have a rock star of his stature at that time actually by name call out all these publishers? And
Yeah. Yeah.
who else could have done that at the time other than Axl? And Axl does, and it's like, yeah, that's a thing he does. Yeah, that's not
Mm-hmm.
surprising, and it's just goofy as hell. Of course, the first single, "You Could Be Mine," was on here, which was in the Terminator 2 soundtrack. My World, the weird little, almost industrial, oddball short track.
Oh,
Um, Estranged was a nice epic, which was, I didn't recall that being a single, but apparently it was, which is pretty
yeah.
odd for a 9.5 minute song.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Yeah, this is yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there are other fans out there who prefer these albums to Appetite for Destruction. I can't be the only one that likes the glorious mess. But yeah, it's a fun album. I haven't listened to it in a long time. I listened to it again prepping for this. Oh yeah, I remember why I bought those cassettes back then. Even though they were, well, speaking of a mess, Axl himself was certainly a mess at that time. He wasn't the only one, but
I don't know.
musically though, this is a case of separating the art from the artist, definitely.
Definitely.
So yeah, that's my first honorable.
It's a good one. It's a good one. My first honorable mention, guys, is GNR Use Your Illusion Volume 1.
Ah, all right.
Released September 17th, 1991 through Geffen. This album was, I don't know how many years in the making. It was being pushed back many times because certain, they weren't ready. They didn't feel the creative juices were there yet. They didn't feel the songs were there yet. And then there was the ultimate hold up because Axel wanted to add on a final track onto the Use Your Illusions album, My World, I believe, the final 1 minute and 23-second track that, was almost like an afterthought. Um, I do feel that Illusion 1 is stronger than Illusion 2, only because Illusion 2 has the re-recording of Don't Cry, with the alternate lyrics. I don't understand why you needed to do that. Why couldn't you just put another song instead of Don't Cry with the alt lyrics on it? I don't understand it. songs of note from Use Your Illusion. One, Back Off Bitch. I love that. I just love to say that. Um, Many times I've said that to many people these days. Um, The Garden, with I do believe Alice Cooper's on that track on incidental vocals. Live and Let Die, the Paul McCartney and Wings cover, which I think is fantastic. November Rain, I mean, that was where Guns N' Roses went off in another stratosphere in terms of, musical composition. Of course, apparently that was all Axl Rose. There's a
Yeah.
story that Axl Rose was doing a sound check one day and he said to the guys around him, I want to play you a song I'm working on. And he played November Rain on piano from start to finish, all 8 minutes and something of it, 8 minutes and 20 seconds of it. And it is still played today on the radio, on FM radio, all 8 minutes and 20 seconds of it. I think it's a masterpiece in terms of a rock track. Um, Other songs of note are Coma on the first album. Um, I do like GNR. I do think though that at this point in time, this album, because it was two uh, albums coming out, I think it was overblown in terms of the publicity department. I think that the second album de- lacks a little bit due to the fact that Don't Cry has the alternate lyrics on their second album. Don't get me wrong, I've seen them on tour on the Metallica tour with the 7.5 hour, mega tour with Faith No More opening up the show. That was a hell of a show. Once Axl Rose decided to take the stage, an hour and a half late. They were supposed to come on at 8:30. They came on and recorded at 10. So I mean, there you go. Fantastic album. I have all the albums, even uh GNR Live, live era. I think it's fantastic. But it's the fact that it's overblown in terms of the media coverage, overplayed. I think that GNR at this point sort of overstepped their bounds and where they went into more of a prima donna kind of a thing, more Axl Rose than anyone else. But that's my humble opinion. So that's my first honorable mention. GNR Use Your Illusion, Volume 1.
All right. That's a nice balance. We got both of them in there.
Yep, there you go. There you go.
We didn't plan it.
No, we didn't plan it. None of what we do, guys, is planned. We don't talk about our picks before we go on camera. Nothing.
Half the fun is finding out what's going to pop up. Dude.
Yeah, Queen number 5. How dare you? Oh, still love
See,
you, Bill, but how dare you?
can't fake those authentic reactions. Like, what the hell was he thinking?
True
All
enough.
right.
True enough.
Well, this one, I might get kicked out of the fan club for this band because, well, I've often called them my favorite band outside of the Beatles. Joe's my favorite artist, but Rush, Roll the Bones is only in here as an honorable mention.
Good choice.
Love the cover. I've always loved that cover. It's just really cool.
Yeah.
Uh, but this, I think the thing about this album, I really loved the songs that got played on the radio in the St. Louis market here back then when the album was new. That was Dreamline, the title track Roll the Bones, which a lot of people hate, and I do not. I think it's a great song. And my favorite, Ghost of a Chance. I think that has one of Alex's most gorgeous solos on it. I love the lyrics to it. It's a very poignant lyric from Neil. Just
Mhm.
love, basically. And those songs alone are pretty much enough to carry the album. Uh, the rest of the album, there's some good songs on it. I mean, it's Rush. I don't think they ever made a bad album. Like I said, I kind of consider them my favorite band. So, but if I had to rank this in their overall catalog, it would be fairly far down as an overall album.
Okay.
But it's still strong enough that it needed to at least be on here as an honorable mention. So it was the second of the albums produced by Rupert Hine, so the sound was unfortunately a bit thin. I like Rupert Hine a lot for many of the things he's done with like Saga and The Fix, those two in particular. But
Mhm.
with Rush, I don't know. Those Presto and Roll the Bones seem so quiet compared to the surrounding albums, and
Yeah.
I think that kind of hurts them to a degree for me. I
Mhm.
always feel like I'm struggling to listen to them.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's still excellent. Rush, Roll the Bones.
It's a good choice. It's a good choice. I got to admit, it's one album I really don't go back to listen to. If I think of a Rush album to listen to, I really don't go back to listen to that one. But you know, it's still a good album. And also, a little spoiler, ladies and gentlemen, Bill and I are still going to be doing a Rush ranking the albums episode at some point in time. We've been talking about this for almost a year. It's going to get done, I promise you.
Could this be the number one?
We'll find out.
No.
Find out. Um,
Could be. Who knows?
okay. My last honorable mention on this lengthy episode of Top Five Albums of the 90s is Joni Mitchell with Night Ride Home. Uh, Here comes again the Canadian contingent. This was her last album, I believe, to be recorded for Geffen Records, released in 1991. Even from the cover, as you'll see in the graphics that I post at the end, beginning and the end of the show, the graphic is of someone just on a ride home or on a ride somewhere. It's dusk. The sun is going down over the mountain. It's just that sort of night, like the color in the sky is that sort of color where you get before night fully comes, and you're just sort of relaxing in the car from wherever you've been, whether it's been work or whether you're out with your friends, and you've got the car radio on very low, but you're just enjoying what you're listening to on the radio, and you're just taking it all in. Okay. And the only sound you hear are the crickets coming out through the window when you're driving. That is what this album is to me. The main single that I remember from this album is Coming In From the Cold. 7 minutes, 20 seconds, plus of just beautiful acoustic guitars, very intricate arrangements. As I said before on other shows, Joni Mitchell's chord progressions on acoustic guitar are a very jazz sort of influenced kind of a jazz influenced motif in terms of her chord progressions. Just amazing, just beautiful, beautiful. Other songs of note on the album are Slouching Towards Bethlehem, which is another fantastic track. Two Gray Rooms, the title track itself, um, Cherokee Louise, which, talks about, Native American rights, etc. And another track, Passion Play, which not to be confused with the Jethro Tull Passion Play. But it's again, it's one of those albums you put on in the car and you're just driving, and it doesn't have to be overly loud. You just need to hear it as a backdrop. And you don't even need, if you're riding along with someone in the car, they'll be, Bill in the car with Stacy, with his wife, he could just sit there, listen to the album, and just hold hands. You don't even need to talk. You just know that you're together, and that's what counts. That is what this album is. So that's my number second honorable mention. Number seven overall for top five albums of the 90s, 1991. There you go. So that's the list.
That was a nice description. I think you are, Joni is for you what Joe is for me on this countdown. It's like probably, people are probably wondering for each of us, why in the hell are these guys continually bringing up these artists? Didn't Joni quit in the 70s? Didn't Joe quit in the 80s?
Joni quit in 2007.
You got a ways to go.
There you
Joe
go.
still hasn't quit, folks. Sorry, you get used to it.
Well, I'll tell you why she quit quickly. She quit because she was tired of how the music business was going. And she was tired of not being given as much credit as Dylan was given credit for. And Dylan did not like Joni Mitchell because Joni Mitchell had more balls to talk to Dylan like he should have been spoken to when he needed it to be, when he needed to be spoken to. And he didn't like that. So, and she didn't put up with any shit that he told her. So, you know, that's why she's important to me. Um, you know what? But you know what? Our lists don't always have to match.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So,
We'll just want to point out we managed to get through 1991, and neither one of us had Nirvana, Nevermind, Soundgarden, Bad Motorfinger, Pearl Jam 10, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Blood Sugar Sex Magic. I
you will
mean,
not see Red Hot Chili Peppers on my list. Spoiler. No, no. I can't do it. I just can't do it. I can't do it. Just can't do it. I won't do it. So there you go, guys. Our top five albums of 1991, part two of our series of top five albums of the 1990s. Five choices plus two honorable mentions each. Please put down in the comments below, down there, what your top five albums or top two or top three or top 10 albums in 1999 were. 1991. See, this is me with the cold, dealing with a lot of shit going on here. 1991. We got a few more episodes to go yet before 1999. So again, guys, please put your list, and hopefully, if it's Queen with innuendo, hopefully it won't be number five on the okay. But
maybe it'll be an honorable. Huh?
there you go, there you go. But anyways, that's it for now, guys. Please look after yourselves and one another. I really do want to thank Bill Schuster for putting up with me for this episode. We ran the gamut of emotions on this episode. We were both tearing up, we were both laughing. And hopefully you guys find something in this list that if you haven't heard yet, maybe it's something that you want to give a listen to. All these albums are available on YouTube. And some of them even on Amazon and Discogs and eBay. So, and at your local record store. So we'll say goodbye for now. And for Mr. Bill Schuster, I'm Armando Venditti. Please look after yourselves and one another. And we will be back with top five albums of 1992. All right. Bye for now.